I'ma really need white women to stop acting like the word is the end.
And also, I realized pretty quickly that he wasn't going to take my help. I was like, I want to help him, I want to help him.
When I say the word in a joking manner, that's where you draw a line in the sand of detestability. You're a f***ing joke and you stand for nothing.
Wake up, guys, there's new drama.
Hi. If you hear animals in the background of this video, I'm sorry. I'm pet sitting for a 400-year-old dog and a cat that loves my attention. I'm going to try to power through it, but if you get annoyed by that, I'm sorry. Here's my Patreon if you want to support me so I don't have to dog sit anymore. I don't know about you guys, but recently I've started to get really tired whenever I hear about a celebrity fight that just doesn't matter. I'm talking about public figure A insulting public figure B, and the two of them going at it, and there's just no big picture. There's nothing to take from it. It's just like noise. And listening in on petty drama sounds really entertaining in theory, but in practice, who's got the time? I'm sure this sounds rich coming from a commentary channel, but in all seriousness, if it's just senseless bickering, I don't know. I just don't think it's worth my focus. And I already have so little of that to begin with. And if you feel similarly, then I have good news, because the topic I want to talk about today does include the clash between two public figures, but it's got roots that are very enriching to talk about. It involves identity, reclamation, recognizing internalized oppression, and those are some really deep topics that I think we can get some self-betterment out of. I'm gonna improve myself so hard. But before you and I can get to the valuable stuff to us, like all the self-actualization junk, we have to first summarize and process the events of the story. And in order to get to that, we have to go over all of the little details of the story itself. So it's a little annoying, but we do have to start at step one. But I'm ready for us to start and find out what we can get from this. So let's talk about the mess between Bela Delgado, Julia Fox, and whether or not building your own self-identity is worth using the tools that were meant to destroy others. The two people you'll need to know for this story are the TikTok figure Bela Delgado and the more mainstream celebrity Julia Fox. Before any of this happened, I was only partially aware of who both of these people were, but I'm going to do my best to give you everything you'll need for the necessary context. Bela has around 450,000 followers on TikTok and is known for both social commentary and music content. His commentary is very progressive, and he amassed a following after adamantly defending minority groups from the misogyny and stereotyping found in a lot of TikTok comments. Along with his TikTok presence, Bela has a prominent platform as a musician/songwriter and has a backlog of pop music he's created and produced over the years. Julia Fox is a supermodel and actress and is known for her eccentric fashion taste. People regard her as an it girl whose choices dictate how trends shape, which speaks to her influence. Her notoriety spiked semi-recently when she dated Kanye West for a month. This was fresh after the announcement of his divorce, and she had a lot of eyes on her since Kanye was still drawing media attention with his provocative behavior towards his family. So two very different worlds, right? You'd assume that these two would never cross paths normally, but they did, and here we are. The research part of this video is a little tricky because Bela has privated their TikTok account and left the app, so I do not have access to most of their videos. But I've gone through a lot of screenshots and secondhand accounts, so I'll try to piece together what happened for you. Based on what I found, it seemed like all of this starts when he releases a song with a word in the title that rubbed some people the wrong way. Some people consider this word inoffensive, while others do treat it seriously. Bela was approached by the latter and was asked to remove the song due to his flippant use of an offensive term. Now, I'm not going to say this word, both for contextual reasons and for YouTube censorship reasons, and calling it the B word is going to make me feel like a 5-year-old, so I'm just going to dance around it. Sorry. So some people ask him to remove the song, and that's where the tension starts. Bela stands his ground over his usage of the word, saying he wants white women to stop acting like this term is as offensive as the N-word.
Really need white women to stop acting like the word bitch is the N-word.
In doing so, he also dips into using some African-American vernacular English, which also did not go over well. As the people try to explain their reasoning, he makes a few more response videos, and somewhere in all of that mess is when Julia Fox gets involved. She leaves a comment on one of his responses saying, "Babe, you should get out of the house more." And it's a simplistic comment, but I can see how it might be irritating. In general, I don't think anyone likes being called babe when they're angry, especially by a stranger. So the comment isn't like overly offensive, but it's also not very diplomatic, which, to be fair, is par for the course for TikTok comments. That is what catapults this story into its current state. Because Bela makes a video response to Julia's comment, and oh my god, it's not a good one.
You were proudly banging Kanye West, a once very vocal Donald Trump supporter, while he was simultaneously running an extremely aggressive harassment campaign against his ex-wife. You sold out every single last one of your feminist morals when you decided to play dress up with Kim Kardashian's sloppy seconds. Yet you want to come into my comment section not even a year later to play the misogyny-slaying messiah because I playfully used the word bitch in a song?
You don't need me to tell you that this is a very emotionally charged response. He's being so aggressive to the person making the comment without responding to the comment itself or explaining anything. It's just aggression. And the language he's using is striking. And, like, this isn't even the whole video. I just showed you half of it.
So you mean to tell me you were willing to lay down and get your pork chop penetrated by a 45-year-old man who once actually called a woman a bitch as an insult, took credit for her fame, framed her as a liar, and proceeded to order a custom naked sculpture of her? Yet when I say the word in a joking manner, that's where you draw a line in the sand of detestability. You're a fucking joke and you stand for nothing. Not to mention the absolutely repulsive things he said about Amber Rose. You are not just a clown, Julia Fox. You are an entire carnival. And your only remotely notable ride is the one you took on Yeezy's drop tower to increasingly irrelevant stardom.
So as you can guess, this is the part of the story that really draws a lot of attention. It's a fight between two public influencers, and the algorithm loves that stuff. So this video took off, and a lot of people started getting involved for different reasons. Some people thought Bela snapping back at Julia was well-deserved, and that it's not a big deal that he used this word. They also thought that he brought up valid criticisms against Julia, who had no place to show up out of nowhere and critique him. But the larger and more vocal response was that of distaste and disappointment in Bela. He had been previously defending women in his commentary and condemning the ways sexism puts them down, but once he was provoked, he was attacking someone using the exact same terms and language. These two camps kind of argue with each other for a few days. They don't convince the other of anything because it's TikTok. Bela then privates their account and makes an announcement to their followers that they're leaving TikTok because it was annoying him.
I'm leaving TikTok. I'm really sorry. I can't do this anymore, and I've been thinking about this for quite a while. This app is poisoning my brain.
He apologized for his overreaction and his aggressive language, but notably, he does not change his stance on his usage of the word.
And as far as all the people who are mad at me for using the word bitch, I don't know what to tell them. I'm not going to stop using the word bitch.
Julia Fox also never responds any further to Bela, so once his account was private, the situation just continued to exist without any kind of conclusion. With the two main instigators gone, it was just left to individual public opinions to carry it on. And that's the story. You know as much as I do. We have the full context. So now, we need to try and figure out what the hell any of that means. Oh yeah, there we go. Now, I know some of you are going to think about what we've covered and say, I don't know, this still sounds like celebrity drama to me. And to be fair, yeah, it kind of has all the markings of your casual, just interaction between two people with opposing viewpoints. They bicker, nobody gets convinced of anything, and then it ends. I don't fault the people who think this is just another mindless scandal. But despite how you might feel about the story or how relevant you think diving into it is, you can't deny that people were really digging into this for a few days. And whenever that happens, it makes me think that there's something of value there that people actually care about. This gripped a lot of online conversations for a while, and that's not nothing. Before anything else, was Bela's reaction bad? Yes. It really was. It is good that Bela eventually apologizes, but the fact that he attacked Julia in this way at all was completely crossing the line and beyond unnecessary in my eyes. Even just the part where he says she got her pork chop penetrated is so beyond disrespectful, and I just don't see how any human brain picks those words to use in a sentence. Like that, what a wild thing to say. And here I can play a part of his apology where he does address his word choice.
I don't like talking about people like that. I was just really mad in the heat of the moment because I had been suspended for days. I had been mass reported and bombarded with hate videos from these radical feminists who decided I was villain of the week because I said the word bitch in a song, and I took it all out on Julia Fox right there in that moment, and that was ridiculous of me. And the part where I called her a pork chop, that was just, I don't know what got into, I don't have a reason for you.
I feel like the video he made really critiques Kanye the most, but all of the insults and anger are only ever aimed at Julia, which kind of makes it seem like his energy is being loosely thrown around. But it is worth mentioning that the people defending Bela do have a point, in that Julia Fox is not beyond critique. Her decision to engage with Kanye in their little month-long situationship is not an easy choice of hers to defend. Kanye proudly uses anti-Semitic and anti-Black rhetoric, just as Bela points out, and he does use the word in question as an insult. Bela's reference of how he made a naked model of Taylor Swift for his music video because he hated her is accurate, and it's right to call out his incessant harassment of his ex-wife and Amber Rose. All of the celebrities that still associate with Kanye and all of his fanboys who still try and excuse his behavior have a lot of his actions to try and answer for. And it's true that Julia did date him despite all of this being public, but it's not exactly the catch-all that Bela thinks it is. It might be irrelevant, but it's worth mentioning that there are a lot of celebrity couples, especially with the weird pairings, that are just PR stunts, and they have been arranged by people behind the scenes. There seems to be a huge machine behind a lot of these couples that is just fueled with advertisers' money. And I guess we'll never really know if this was a PR stunt or not, but the fact that we don't know means we can't reference this as some kind of moral judge, for sure. But if they were dating genuinely, it still wouldn't relinquish Julia of all of her feminist ideals like Bela accuses. Believe it or not, people can uphold their moral beliefs for a general populace while making personal, stupid decisions. Not to mention, if Kanye is as manipulative as he is verbally abusive, then she might even be the victim of that dynamic. We won't know. Okay, hi everybody, Julia Fox update. That's what I get for taking 2 weeks to edit this. After refusing to comment on it, she's finally opened up in a TikTok about her relationship with Kanye, and the people listening for any accountability were left in suspense.
I was just gonna write about it in my book and then have y'all buy it, but I'll just tell you guys for free. By the time me and him got together, it was like he hadn't been doing anything, like out there yet. The only thing he had done was change the name in the song and said, like, come back to me, Kimberly. That was, like, really the only thing when we met. But then I had this thought. And I was like, oh, my God, maybe I can get him off Kim's case. Like, maybe I can distract him. Like, just get him to like me. He wasn't going to take my help. I was like, I want to help him. I sounded almost as dumb as you guys.
Personally, I don't really buy the argument that she was dating Kanye in order to distract him from Kim, because that is a very strange reason to date somebody. And even if that was true, she didn't do a very good job at it. Like, he was harassing Kim daily. Like, what was Julia trying to do? Julia knows how to manipulate the media, and she's probably been asked this question daily since it's happened. So I think she really is conscious of how this answer is going to go down. And she does say that, she's trying to advertise her book. And I think that's pretty telling. Is she dodging accountability? Is she just marketing her book? Maybe both, maybe neither. But either way, this was relevant and I felt the need to include it in the overall video. But yeah, let's get back to the video. And please, no more celebrities on TikTok. Jesus. But regardless, it's weird that Bela tried to dismiss any feminist stance Julia might have because of this. If you're mad at Kanye, you can be. There's a lot to critique there, but this isn't exactly the place. While this whole mess was going down, a lot of the reactions were to try and figure out who was right and who was in the wrong. Like, Julia's in the wrong for butting in out of nowhere, or Bela's in the wrong for using this language, or I don't know, it wasn't helpful. If you were to ask me, and thank you, by the way, for asking me, it's clear that Bela went too far in lashing out at Julia by adopting sexist language, and I also think it's fair to be upset that Julia hasn't condemned Kanye's actions, both now and then. So there you have it. Everyone's in the wrong. We can call it a tie. Except viewing this as a win-or-lose situation kind of drains the nuance from the whole thing, and nobody learns anything. And when that happens, we keep getting celebrity fights that don't mean anything. And I hate those. These responses were so focused on trying to figure out who was right versus who was wrong that they missed the bigger problem. Labeling yourself as a feminist while harboring all of these misogynistic views is not exactly a new thing. It's just feminism mixed with misogyny, or Feminisogyny. That's not the official term for it, that's just my own fun mashup of the words, because I guess I'm a Sesame Street character. Anybody can call themselves a feminist. It's not hard to label yourself as a progressive and then have people believe you. And a lot of people use this technique to be accepted into circles, and all the while evading themselves being labeled as a threat. This is where I think actions need to speak louder than words, because progressive movements are built by active steps, and that needs to be a collective effort, meaning we have to trust one another, and that leads to us not being very lenient on the people who just want to wear activist as a hat. Both Bela's words and actions back when he was defending people matter. That's not nothing. But we need to pay attention to these words too, and this is not someone I'd want help from while trying to protect people who need it. And while all of that is a very real problem, I don't really think Bela is some undercover conservative who hates women. I think he just resorted to using the horrific language and terms that is usually levied against them. And that is worth calling out. Bela is a bi man, but being part of one oppressed group doesn't mean you're exempt for participating in the oppressive language towards another one. Men of any identity could say sexist things, and misogyny from any source is worth addressing. And on that note, that brings us to the other problem. The big one, the messy one, the one that's probably going to demonetize this video. So thanks for that. Hi, puppy.
I said, bitch, I'm the man of the house.
Yeah, you said bitch, though. You called your wife a bitch.
Yeah.
This entire conflict started because some people raised some problems with Bela's usage of a word that has been historically wielded as a derogatory slur. We've all heard the annoying kid in class say that, oh, it's just the term for a female dog. And while that's the correct origin, turns out it's still an insult when you use it against people. The fact that it refers to women as animals is demeaning, but it's also used to imply they're being difficult, unruly, or even aggressive. And it can be used for men too, but then it's usually implying weakness. And the pushback is not just because, oh, it's a mean word. Like, it is connected to an entire history of men subjugating women, either stripping away their rights, kidnapping them from villages, or burning them at the stake, right? This word has been used that entire time. So, not a great history. I'm sure that we're all aware, though, that this word in recent years has gone through a few levels of being reclaimed, and now it's been reintroduced into our vocabulary with an entirely new context behind it. Women can now use this word if they want to associate strength, or someone whom a man might use the term for. Musicians, especially women in male-dominated genres, repurposed this word even further into a status of power. It's now a sign of independence and confidence, despite what men might say. I'm a boss ass. Now, I am not a social justice expert. The whole reason I knew any of that was because smarter people have explained it to me. But what I do know is that in order to correctly reclaim a slur, you'd have to be part of the original intended group that it was used for. Otherwise, you're just using it as a slur. Bela makes a reference towards our updated approach to the N-word, which was a slur used during the horrific enslavement of black people, and so as our culture tries to move beyond it, non-black people are rightfully called out for when they use it. But some black people use it now as a reclaimed term, and though the roots of it stay unchanged, its modern adoption into black culture has more ownership and control over it. There is no comparison between the struggles of black people and the struggle of women in general, and to be fair, I think that's what Bela is trying to say in this video. The common element of slur reclamation, however, is a separate issue, and I don't think it's right for Bela to equate the two.
Really need white women to stop acting like the word bitch is the N-word.
And I'm gonna need cis men to stop telling women how they should be feeling or how they should be reacting to slurs. It is not only white women who are out here saying that it is a slur. I have come across multiple women of color, particularly black women, saying that they are uncomfortable with men using that because it doesn't apply to them.
In Bela's privated apology video, he does make it clear that he's not going to change his stance on whether he can use that word or not. And pay attention to his reasoning.
And as far as all the people who are mad at me for using the word bitch, I don't know what to tell them. I'm not gonna stop using the word bitch. And you know who else isn't? Everybody. Like, literally everybody. I don't know what y'all are on about.
He does make a good point in saying that this word is mainstream, because it isn't just in music. It's used a lot in TV shows and movies, and it's widely accepted just for us to pepper it into our casual conversations, just as a go-to insult. And because inside we are all sensitive snowflakes, when you tell certain people that there are groups that think you shouldn't be able to use this word, they get very defensive and they stamp their feet and they say that they should have a right to say it, or that it's not a big deal, and George Washington died for their right to use this slur. Now, there's also not a very super clear answer on whether or not the people affected by this slur are in agreement on how to address it. And in order to look into this, I thought we should stop hearing from me and start hearing from, more relevant people. So I went looking for discussions on this topic, and this is what I found. Is this word a slur? As feminists, would you consider this word to be a gendered slur? Definitely. It's a derogatory term used historically against an oppressed group. Nowadays, some women will call themselves or their friends this word in a joking, affectionate, or prideful manner. That's reclaiming a slur. As a woman, I feel way different if a man calls me this word than if a woman does. If a drag queen or effeminate gay man called me the term the way I call women the term, then I wouldn't feel offended. If a straight cis man called me the term the way I call women the term, I would be offended. I definitely think they own the word as much as any woman. Definitely pejorative, probably a slur, but depends on the context. I personally don't want to reclaim it because I don't think you can separate it from its misogynistic roots, but I don't make a big stink if other friends, etc. that I trust use in a friendly way with each other, or even me. There's a lot of interesting comments in this thread, and most people seem to have their own unique interpretations of what feels right. And though the individual reactions to this discussion are interesting, it does shed some uncertainty onto what the general consensus is. Because Bela's account is now privated, I don't have access to all of his counter-arguments as to why it's okay for him to use that word. But if I'm allowed to hypothesize a little bit, I think I can assume a possible reason. Almost everyone has been called this word at some point in our lives, but because Bela is bi and he's talked about coming face to face with toxic and overtly masculine men, it's possible that he has been called this term with all of its derogatory intent behind it. It might have been used against him as a slur. That would mean that to him, this word might actually be something he would reclaim. Like, if he has a personal experience with being called this word, there might be value for him in taking it back somehow. And the reasoning does get blurry, because obviously this is a word that men created against women, and if you're going to reclaim it, that would mean that men shouldn't say it and women can. But if some men use it as a derogatory slur against someone who's not a woman, they could argue that the insult element of it is something that they have a right to try and reclaim. Entitled men often attack LGBTQ groups with the same vitriol that they use against women. Oppression isn't balanced, and to be fair, there is some level of solidarity between all of the victims of whatever society we have that just favors rich, white, straight men. Bela is a white man, but he belongs to a group that is often the victim of men's oppressive language. Maybe to him, he falls under the range of people who have a right to try and take back that word. Or none of that's true, and he just doesn't think it's that big of a deal to use the word. I don't know. I'm an outsider. But I think the key element that would defeat that line of hypothetical thinking is that it's not just an insult, it's a slur. Even if it's used against you, if you're not a part of that original intended audience, then there's nothing to reclaim. By using it, you're just claiming it. Bela's song uses the word in a demeaning way. It was meant to be interpreted as insulting. But even if it wasn't, I would imagine those same people would still take issue with it since it wasn't coming from a woman. Bela likely defended his usage of the word because it's a common word used by millions of people every day, and he might have felt unfairly called out for his usage of it. And then Julia Fox's comment was likely in response to the manner in how Bela was defending his position. That is what I believe is at the core of this entire story, right? The people who are defending Bela are really defending his right to use that word because that's where it started. And the people defending Julia are really just defending her stance and calling him out. And look, the reason this comes down to an internal choice, like I've been saying, is because there isn't going to be like an official ruling on this. There's no nationwide Supreme Court decision that's going to say whether or not we can use this word. Really, it's a personal choice we get to make about whether or not we say this word. It's the same internal personal choice we make about whether or not we say the N-word. And it's the same personal internal choice we make about licking the floor or throwing your phone out the window. It's about self-control. This whole thing is about self-control. Every second of every day, we are operating based on what we think is the right thing to do in the moment. Like, without it, I could jump out that window right now, but I know that it would hurt myself. I know that it would cause property damage, and I know that it would make me look stupid on the internet, so I don't do it. In the same way that we're governing ourselves for our own personal reasons, I think we can extend that based on external reasons. Somewhere out there are people who don't think that I should be able to use that word. They don't know about me. They don't know if I say it. They don't know if I don't say it. But does that matter? There's no secret unit of the police that's going to arrest you for saying this word, but it would be the considerate thing to do to not say it. And knowing that it would be considerate to those people who don't know you exist to not use this word, it's now up to you how much of that you're going to put value in. And everybody is different. Some people are going to stop saying the word. Some people are going to use it more. I wouldn't expect any different. And because it's a deeply personal and individual decision, there's no way to do it without looking within and reasoning it out with yourself. Which does bring me to an uncomfortable part of the video. I say this word all of the time. It's always felt like a very reliable go-to emphasis that you could use for both comedic and stressful situations. It's not as mild as some of the lighter ones can be, but it's also not as room-silencing as the heavy, serious ones. Truly, it is the middle child of bad word severity. And every time I'd use it, I wasn't ignorant of the history behind it. I knew never to direct it at a person, especially a woman. And I would only ever use it in non-specific situations, like when I stub my toe or when I'm trying to over-exaggerate a story. And I witnessed that process that I mentioned earlier, where the word was reclaimed in our culture. And so oftentimes when I would use it, it would be meant in the empowering way. I was so comfortable with it that this was my pinned tweet for the longest time. Like my main Twitter account that's connected to this YouTube account, like it's my business profile. And I thought everything was fine. It was a light joke with only me as the punchline, so the word being used in there was only added for effect. So I knew the word was bad enough to where it could be used as a slur, but I never wanted to, and so I would only ever use it in the general, non-specific way, and hopefully, therefore, never offending anyone by not directing it to them. Damage avoided. It wasn't until researching and reading into this story that I learned that this word really stings for some people, and it's not quite yet divorced from its original slur intentioned. I was listening to people explain why this word was still hurtful, and even though Bela wasn't listening like they hoped, I was listening and it was starting to click. I really think I needed to just be exposed to people explaining why, to them, it's not just an insult, it's still a slur. And that definition change really shifted my entire subconscious understanding of that term. Like, now I could think of it as my pinned tweet now has a slur in it. And I hate that. Thinking back to myself using this word casually, feels bad. Like, I know I never meant it in a derogatory or hateful way, and I thought the way I was using it was safe and inoffensive, but you don't get to pick and choose what parts of the slur you mean. It's the slur. And going even further, I can see how ingrained this was in my vocabulary. Like, I had completely thought the culture had reclaimed that word, but it's not for me. That's not mine to reclaim. And if all I need to do is find another word to express what I mean that doesn't offend people, I think I can do that. To be clear, this is a personal decision for me. I'm not trying to say this word is off limits for you, and I'm not going to try and hide all the records of me saying it out of fear of, like, not looking pure. But this is a word that I want to stop using, even in the safe ways that I used to. After this story, it just feels different to me. And word choice matters. And I don't like how that word is used. And really, it is an easy enough change to make. Like, I'm not going to grieve this not being my pinned tweet anymore. Like, when I stub my toe, I can just say, ow. I wanted to bring this up because this story had an effect on me. A fight between two influencers who I didn't know of over a slur usage. Like, it's so mundane, and, like, it's the exact kind of story the internet throws at us all the time. And I've actually changed my outlook on life based on how I interacted with the story. On a regular day, this story might have just melted my brain like usual, but I feel like making a conscious decision based around it feels like a better usage of my time. And again, this is just the choice I'm making. I know that not everyone feels the same way about this word, and not everyone is going to change how they talk based on how others feel. I'm just here to reiterate that I think you should have your own personal internalized conclusion about this term. I'm not here to dictate the rules for you. I'm just here to make sure that the decision you make is an informed one. Well, that wraps up the YouTuber apology section of the video. I know I forgot to do the classic, like, sigh, like they all start with. I guess I could do that now. Nah, moment's gone. What a time to be alive. This could very easily just have been drama between a mainstream celebrity and a little TikTok influencer, but really, this is not about them. I actually think if I had left out their names, this story would have been just fine. The core of this would not have changed, and that is, how much value do you put into your own consideration of others? Is it worth it to change your own behavior and maybe unlearn something if it will benefit someone you might never even meet? In this case, Bela went against his inclusive behavior by using sexist language to attack someone, and he's choosing not to change his behavior of using a curse word despite how it affects others as a slur. And those are his calls to make. Again, we can't change other people's behaviors, only our own. For you, your internal process on this is going to be different than Bela's, and it's going to be different from mine and someone else. I can't think of a fourth person. For me, I'm going to try and make an effort to stop using this word, right? I think it affects other people more than it affects me. And if I accidentally use it, it won't be the end of the world. I'll apologize to the people who feel affected by it, but try to get better in the meantime. For whatever it's worth to you, that's my reasoning. But again, you go your own way. Like those Reddit comments, maybe you decide to use it situationally. Maybe you only say it around like-minded people. Maybe you decide not to use it at all. Or you decide that it's just a word and you don't change a thing. The important thing is that you are making a conscious decision, and every other variable in this equation is your own to scale and value. That's what I'm taking from the story, anyway, because if we're going to be exposed to celebrity drama day in and day out, then we might as well use it to our advantage and try to learn from it. Because God knows the celebrity drama is just going to keep coming. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope this was interesting to you, and if not, sorry. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Life can be a Gonna get some water, which means I'm out of frame. This guy's just, are these just bowls? They've got to have like one. Oh my god, all of these water glasses are so short. Please be a tall one. Oh, fuck. Fine. The water's been acquired. Gonna grab some muffins. Where the f*** are my muffins? Not sure who got my muffins. Oh, fuck, there were muffins right here. I'm the only person in this house unless the dog grew thumbs. Whatever. Muffins been acquired.